Well, hello there, everyone. Here to show you right here is the total, visible, total solar eclipse right here. I'm talking about for May of 2020, and talk about in 2 years from now. That I have this date right here set for as to where if it's supposed to be what you call for visible, and basically means is to where that anybody who's been a photographer, or if they've been just walking outside, and maybe if they're living in some parts of Canada or maybe other states, that they're going to walk out the door one morning, or maybe one evening, afternoon it is, between maybe 10:30 or maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they're going to look at the sun, and then they're going to maybe see that maybe the sun is glowing, or changing colors, or they might see some rainbow activity going on in the sun too. So if you're likely one to where you look at the sun and you're going to maybe see a number of a source of what you call this energy sources, and I know anything that you may have learned from science class, especially that the sun may look like the same thing. It's bright and in different colors, especially when it's passing through the clouds. It is, and so it seems like that that whenever the sun's passing through a number of clouds, and then it goes from, like, a lot of times it's dark to light and dark to light, and you're able to, especially the dark clouds, especially the dark and then the light clouds, but when you see clouds in the sky, but basically talking about the future though, and talking about the things that we see in the sky. And the way the work that I'm about to show you right here is some illustration, and I know if anybody will want to, like I talked about before, of anything that I'm going to be working on, and I have this painting. If anybody's interested, I have this painting up for sale in Nikura's art shop, and labeled for the Visible Total Solar Eclipse for May of 2020. So let's just say that through parts. It could be parts on the East Coast, or maybe parts of Australia or Europe that might see an eclipse or something like that. But still, that within about 3 or 4 years from now. But let's just say that if the situation came to where that some of the with our cameras though, and I know that I have taken during the time of the moon eclipse, that I have taken about at least 25 photographs of the eclipse. And it seemed like a lot of times that whatever that's going on up in the sky is not captured on camera. And if you're going to be a designer, then you're also wondering too as to where that maybe you're able to place, you're able to use and create, using tools like on illustration and Photoshop, just to be able to draw a little bit more of what you see. And for what's going on up there in space, and what's going on with the stars, and the moon, and then what's going on with the other planets orbiting around the solar system. But say in the galaxy of our solar system, but still that talk about for visible solar total, and so anything that is visible, and so let's just say that that if we're going to be walking outside, taking a step outside and look at the sun, and you might see something interesting about the sun. Maybe that you walk outside and find out that maybe it's not as bright as usually it is, or maybe if it's even brighter. But still, talk about the future, about the sun right here. The things that we normally see, we just don't see all the time in the sky, if that's really what we're looking for. But what you see right here, I want to put together right here, is like the shape right here, and talk about for between the totality and as well as the sun right here, that you have right here is this round object. And I know a lot of times during like the moon eclipse, that especially if it's going to be early in the morning, around dawn time, between 4:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning, that sometimes this is what the kind of like what the moon looks like, and as well as like with the sun. And if anybody will want to where that there would be like no way that you would be able to look, see the moon, in front of the sun, especially that if it's anybody say, you might see maybe a little bit of combination of both. You might see the moon, coming in from the east side, but then the sun is facing from the south side. But this object right here is basically meaning as to where that it's supposed to be it's supposed to show about what's going on up there in space. If there's if you want to call it, if there's enough light to where that what's going to be visible and what's going to be what you call impossible just to see it, just because it's what you call so many thousands of miles away, or how you want to pronounce it, that looking through a telescope, that really certain ways of how you'll be able to see some of this stuff. But whenever I was looking in the sky a couple times, those couple mornings, that I would see something like this, to where I would see, it was the moon, but I would see like a little round object, like this right here. I would see a little round object, but then I would also see like a little black shadow right there. So yeah, that the things that's going up there in space, that we're not able to capture all of it on camera. And sometimes, though, that even whenever you set the camera, that you're not able to capture everything that's going on up there in space. And you also learn too that you really have to have a good focus, and then you really have to set the camera to where it captures the night photos. Set the high, the PPI and the ISO, you'll just be able to capture those night images. But still, though, that you have right here is this round object right here. But let's just say, though, with like the total solar eclipse right here, this right here will be a painting right here. But how many of us could maybe warrant to where that if you can go ahead and put together like a masterpiece, to where that you're able to separate between that light and dark, and light and dark, and as well as for what's visible and what's not visible, and so that sort of stuff. But the way I think about it too is to where that the things that we see in space, and let's just say that if anybody is going to have their own point of perspective to where what they've seen in space, and let's just say if somebody told you that they've seen planet Mars or they've seen planet Jupiter visible in space, and that you see maybe a lot of things almost all the time about what's going on up there in space, but still, that what does how can we really explain to anybody about the visible total the visible totality, if you want to kind of call it, to where that the visibility to where somebody that sees something that maybe not very many people have seen, and it seems like to where that whenever you see something, that you might think that is to where your eyes play tricks on you. Your eyes play tricks on you, especially that if you're going to be looking up in the sky, and you might see things that maybe really aren't there, but still that but you have right here of this design right here of this right here will be the shadow. You're going over the sun right here, like going through the moon shadow. But let's just say that if anybody were to ask me as to where that exactly, they walk up to you and they see something that you're working on that's very interesting to them, and then they might ask you as to where how much do you want for it. And I keep thinking too as to where that anything that you're going to be working on, or anything that maybe that you're going to be looking at, and you're also wondering too as to where how does this masterpiece become a treasure to somebody else, especially that maybe that whenever you're going to be working on a painting, and let's just say if you're looking at it just to kind of study a little bit more about what it is, and then somebody that wants to take interest in and say is as to where that they want to go ahead and buy it, and how would they do that? And so it seems like to where sometimes that you're kind of think about as to where that what do you want to tell them necessarily, as to where that you're not the person, you're not the salesperson, or you're not the person who owns the business or something. So that you might come up with certain reason to why that well, I'm not the person that you need to talk to about that. But let's just say though that that anything that I'm going to be working on, if it winds up does going up for sale, and say that anything about your improvements, or if anything before anything goes up for sale, and all exactly about what what exactly is detailed about this this painting right here. But I mainly want to show this right here because I want to include this round object right there, and that's right there is supposed to be an example right there of something that you would see in space. And I know the printout didn't come out very well, but I know you will be able to see a little bit more clear image if you visit the Curios shop and then go to my shop, and you will be able to see a little bit of this the object. But a few times that I have seen the different colors inside of the moon, and as well as for what you see in the sun. If you zoom in pretty closely on your camera to the sun, and maybe you can see some things, but some things that you just cannot capture very clearly on a camera. And I was like, most of the time I was wondering about that, to where that I have taken about at least maybe 15 or 25 or so pictures of something going on in the sky, about what the clouds were doing, and all the amount of sunlight that was giving. So yeah, that the things that you just cannot capture on camera that you want to do. And so it seems like to where that sometimes if you could just try to explain to somebody about this is exactly about kind of like what you saw, that you see this, the sun going through the Earth's shadow, or it could be the moon that you're passing through the Earth's shadow, or it could be another source of, if you want to call it popular, the ring around the moon, like the Carvus moon or something like that. And so there's going to be other things that's different things that you're going to see going up on in space. And I guess from the amount of moisture, I guess if it's moisture, or that about the atmosphere, that's sorts of stuff that you studied about in science, but really about the things that we cannot capture on camera, that sometimes that we want to show people about exactly about what they saw. And let's just say if I were to use this design right here, and with my designing skills, I'm also trying to make it as artistic as I can, just so I can show everybody that, exactly assuming about what exactly does it look like. And so let's just say that by May of 2020, that they're going to be what you call something amazing that you're going to capture in the sky. And sometimes, though, it's like, whenever you look at the pictures on your camera, then sometimes there are some shots that sometimes that come out of focus, or that just we're not able to capture all what was really going on there at the time. So let's just say that if this round object could have been what you call it kind of does look like an enlargement of the moon. But some of us may even say that that whenever you took that picture, that you were facing the northeast, that you took that picture of the sun, but then that maybe the moon was not really facing that direction during the time. So whenever you're going to be taking photographs, sometimes that the things that maybe the camera can capture, or that maybe the things that you've seen, and you're also learning too as to where that it's visible. It is visible. Maybe you were really the only one who really had seen it, or maybe a few other people that you may have talked to that may have seen this similar thing. So I guess how do we kind of explain that to where that the things that you're able to see, that maybe some people can see it, or can only see it just in different pauses, different phrases, different visuals, if you want to call it different visuals. But still, though, that whenever I'm looking at the sky and trying to take pictures, I notice that based on my experience, even if you were to spend nearly, how much money, if you were to spend about maybe $300 or $400 on getting, equipment just to take some really good sky footages of what's going on up in the sky. And you're likely thinking as to where that with anything that you're going to be capturing, that you might have some pretty good sources of equipment, but we are talking about art, though. I guess that's mainly what I'm talking about, is you talk about art. The type of art that, that makes something look as realistic as to where if it was the actual, presentation, that was, similar to the photo. And I guess if you want to call it, it's like that's what you call like the kind of like the gold charm, what I call it, to where you're trying to make your paintings look exactly a little bit like what something on a photograph will be able to capture. But the way I use this right here, yeah, a lot of sunlight right here. And the way I use this printout right here is almost like is to where that I added in enough sunlight right here to where it would show, the sun right there. And then if there was like what you call this black spot, going across the sun. And just think about it to where whenever we look very closely, that this black spot right here. And how many of us can maybe think as to where if they look very closely and I can maybe say as to where some people may even say that they swear that they've seen another object, another round object right there in the shadow. And let's just say that, it looked like a mirror. I'm like, whenever the eclipse happened, it almost looked like a mirror to where they were able to actually see another object upon the shadow. But really, that how many of us maybe think as to where that there's going to be a shadow that looks like a mirror to where it's going to reflect another object coming from the other direction. And let's just say with that other object, could be what you call, another planet that is visible within, certain thousands of miles away or something like that. But really, about almost anything that is possible, but still that number of things that maybe that just cannot be explained to where that talking about with the visible totality of the solar eclipse. And I guess if you want to say is that by the year 2020 that you would probably think is toward that the things that we would see up there in space, that thing is toward that that number of times that you try taking a photograph and sometimes it comes out of focus. And you're also wondering too as to where that does not look like what I'm trying to capture. So if you're trying to take a picture of something like this going up there in the sky, and then let's just say if it does turn out of focus. So let's just say that that zooming in and zooming out, and then you're likely wondering to where it's coming out too dark, or if it's coming out too light. So you're likely wondering too about that, as to where that with anything that you're trying to capture on camera, that you're likely thinking as to where that at the time that the things that maybe you see that maybe some people can't see, and if it could be maybe a white dot in the sky or something, or anything in particular like that, but still that the things that you can see in the sky, and but still that you wake up one morning and then that you might see some things in the sky, and but it's still that they say that is it me? It's like, well, has anybody ever heard that before? To where they say, is it me, or is there a lot of stars in the sky? Because I'm like, is it me? I'm like, whenever somebody asks you, it's like, is it me? I'm like, is it just you, or do other people see what I see? You see it on those cartoon TV shows also, to where if somebody asks, is it me, or is it really cold outside or something, or do other people have the same opinion as I do? But let's just say that the situation goes by as to where that if you're going to be out looking at the stars, maybe looking at the sun, there's like maybe not going to be very many people, like, that you're looking at the sun, and then that maybe that, you're able to see something that maybe, happened within about maybe 5 or 10 seconds or something like that, and I want to know about exactly, about did other people see that, or, maybe, exactly, thinking that maybe your eyes are playing tricks on you. And if we've done this study about science before, how often will we think as to where that, how often would our eyes, be playing tricks on us? You're like one or two as to where how often would our eyes be playing tricks on us, especially that whenever you're going to be, got a lot on your mind, or, anything, in particular, such as to where that, if you got, start thinking about something, and then you think that you're seeing things that really aren't there, but still, that I guess you say that that's all about the study about I guess this physiology, like, yeah, the source of science is toward it, for how our eyes work and how our brain works and all that, the things that you see, that you think that are just what you call, it's just you, oh, you're just seeing things, but still, that anything that is related to about visible in the sky. And so that's the one thing I want to talk about this round object right there, because I know a couple of times you go out and look at the moon and look at the sun, and you're trying to take a picture of something, and sometimes it just doesn't turn out right, and you're also learning too, as to where that, oh, okay, take another picture, and maybe let's just say about maybe 3 other pictures that you take, and some of them that turn out all right, and some of them that turn out of focus. But I was also thinking too, as to where, yeah, if anybody say that you look at some illustrations that I put together right here, and thinking as to where that yeah, that if it's well enough, then maybe people are going to want to go ahead and buy it. But sometimes it seems like as to where that right now it's like you're just working on displaying it. But I know on my portfolio I don't have very many of these illustration paintings posted up on there, mainly on the Curios page, but still that on the Curios Art Shop. But talking about for the visible totality of the solar eclipse. So let's just say that the things that would be visible, that maybe if you can see them, and if you're looking through a telescope or maybe with the camera, and the things that maybe are going to be hard to capture on camera, especially. So it's just something to think about, to where that what is visible to you, and just think as to where that about how much people probably say that yeah, that pay a certain amount of money. So yeah, if somebody were to offer you about maybe $5, just to be able to keep one of your sources of work for a souvenir, and $5 it may cost just to get a good parking spot, maybe near the park, 1 year, wherever you are able to view the solar eclipse, or maybe if it's the moon eclipse or something like that, pay for a parking spot, maybe to go to a game, and then maybe if it's going to be a night game, and then you're going to maybe get a clear view of the sky also. So just think about it as to where that, whenever you're going to be working on a painting like this, and then somebody's going to be handing out maybe, $5, maybe, it could be, Spanish money or something like that, and you're likely wondering to her that, hey, how much do you want for that? Or how about $5? And they're going to ask them as to where, why do you want to pay, me for a painting that, I'm like, yeah, that this is a painting here, it's not a photograph. So how many of us could maybe wonder to where that about how much money do you think that maybe you could compare to photographs, and maybe you compare to illustrations? You might say that all depends, and you can maybe say that all depends on almost anything. But still though, that what are people necessarily looking for whenever they're looking at a painting like this? And I guess it seems like as to where that, are they trying to find out the truth about the whole situation, or is it all about as to where that looks very interesting? They're just curious to know. But about how much, yeah, that whenever you're going to be working on something, and let's just say that it comes to a situation to where people are willing to buy from you, or yeah, because I remember since last year's solar eclipse that I remember I was wondering that question to where about how many people would want to buy one of my paintings of work if it's something to do with maybe rainbows, or something about the eclipse, or maybe something about maybe the carnival or the circus, about how many people would want to buy it. And I'm like, well, I wanted to where that whenever I have a few portfolio visits, and then a few visits to my art shop, that a lot of times that they say that a lot of people are liking the ones about the eclipse. So if we look very closely at this shape right here, this round shape right here, it does look a little bit like the moon right here. I'm like, if anybody say that do you think that maybe that could maybe be also maybe another good example of maybe planet Mars? It's like your planet Mars would be like to see a red planet, wouldn't it? But anything about science though. So if anybody say that, yeah, that somebody, offered to pay you some money, just so that way they can have a copy of, something. But you tell them that, yeah, that this is not a photograph right here. I did not take a photograph of the moon and just make it darker and then add a few, what you call, after effects or so. These are shapes right here. I use the shapes, the shapes tool. You'll use illustration, combine so this is an actual painting right here, using different shapes and add different effects just to be able to show the sun and all that. So if anybody wanted to wear that, that if I say that, yeah, that you'll pay $5 just to keep something like that as a souvenir. And sometimes it seems like to where that really, that, that all depends, huh? But still, that, the first thing that I'm going to maybe say is to where that's not a photograph, that's a painting. But sometimes somebody that might even say that looks very interesting and very artistic. So yeah, that really about between, if anybody say that, if you're going to argue about anything, and then knowing about who's going to win. But still, that I know since last year that there has been a lot of people who were able to get good footages and good video clips of the eclipse, and as well as maybe if it's a meteor shower or anything like that. But let's just say though that the situation goes by as to where that if it was something that you were working on, and maybe that you have not really set a price for it yet for up the market, but the way I painted this right here, it almost looks like a photograph, because whenever I was working on the illustration work right here, add some blending effects to it, then it looked kind of like this, to where it looked like a photograph, almost like to where it was almost out of focus, but then it was still able to capture, that object, to where it like going through the moon shadow. You have right here is the shadow right here, and you have right here it looks like it's the moon right here. So people may look at that as really awesome, especially if we're talking about maybe for a print or maybe for a t-shirt, and then maybe that they're, when they say is like, how much do you want for it? And you might say that, well, it's not for sale, but still that talking about the things that would be visible, and I know that if anybody were to say that, but let's just say if the situation was related to the artist and anything that they put together, and you're likely thinking as to where that anything that you're able to come up with, anything as so far as what you call results, then chances are that you're going to find somebody who's going to maybe warn as to where that, if it's a photograph or if it's a painting, how much do you want for it? So you're likely thinking as to where that, exactly, that whenever you're working on something, that I can tell anybody here that this right here looks exactly about what I'm talking about right here. Going outside and you look at the moon as like between 4 and 5 a.m. and before the sun comes up, and something like this is almost like what you would see with the moon, as to where you would see the shadow and then you would see the moon and you would see a little bit of light. But other than that, it's like, I was not able to capture very many clear, good focused images on the camera. A lot of times either was out of focus, or sometimes it was even cold outside to where I was not able to capture some of those images. So I decided to go ahead and paint this and just explain, show everybody, describe about a little bit about what I seen. But what I seen was during the time of the moon's eclipse of the blue blood moon, was that you have right here is the shadow right here, and then you have right here is the moon. I was not, and I know that that whenever you see something like a shadow, that half the time, if that's really what you call, is like just a way of how a day turns to night, and then from how night turns to day. But that's something it's like to where about every 12 hours or so, it's like if he's not knowing about exactly about what color the sun is and what color the moon is, like compared to what you call between the sun and the moon. They're both, I'm like, yeah, about how far are they from each other? I would say about maybe between 6 and 17, thousand miles or so, from each other, or something like, maybe if anybody say do the particular science and knowing about how far the moon is from the sun. But the things that we're able to see in space, from Earth, and you're like wondering to where how come that some of that stuff that you're not able to capture on camera, sometimes it's not very clear images. But on the other hand, too, it seems like to where that a lot of those photographers are really looking for photographs. They're not really looking for paintings. But at some point, they say that if you're going to think you'll be in luck, and to where that people want to know is to where they want to keep something for a souvenir, or they're just curious to know about the truth of the matter. I'm like, exactly. Is that really what you saw there? Like, well, kind of. I would say, yeah, exactly. That. Looking at the moon right here, and I seen the moon right here, but then I seen a shadow right here. But still, though, that by being able to see things that that maybe not everybody is able to see, but talk about visibility, and you say yeah, tell the doctor about something like that, you likely weren't to where that. What does you usually mean whenever you're the only one who is able to see what's going on in space? You're able to see satellites. You're able to see a few stars changing colors, but other than that, talk about a study about this round object. Talk about the moon right there, like talk about the moon shadow, and then passing through the sun right there, and typical images that maybe be able to capture. But say exactly, but what is visible? Only to you what is visible. But other than that, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.